this is not an ideological difference that I have with Jimmy Dore in this clip. This is a difference in like, what is your responsibility when you platform somebody and then sit there and agree with a guy who is talking about data based upon polls he's taking on his Nextdoor account. I kid you not. Listen to this absolute garbage. And Jimmy Dore, I think, is absolutely convinced in his, and I imagine it's enhanced by something that comes in a bottle or a container in terms of like, why he's so convinced that he's right about these things. He puts out like lists. I think I saw a tweet that you had, Matt, where he was like, I've been proven right about all of these things. And in fact, not the case at all. No. Just even the idea that the vaccine is, and all these talk about these excess deaths, real doctors, and real epidemiologists and real statisticians are blowing holes in this every day. They just don't now have the amplification because, frankly, the COVID deniers, the people who wanted to make sure that we were back to work,
the Koch brother,
and that U.S. business was not in any way hindered by this, have won, essentially.
The National Restaurant Association won.
There is, if you read into like the various corners of the medical profession, where you have experts like cardiovascular experts and neurological experts and, experts of all kinds, they are all seeing implications of people being infected with COVID in far reaches of the body, systems of the body, organs, cardiovascular, like I say, neurological. We have yet to really fully grasp the implications of getting COVID and of getting COVID multiple times and of getting COVID multiple times without being vaccinated. Aside from the 1.1 million deaths. And so this type of stuff is incredibly irresponsible. And the idea that you would just sort of like sit there and nod when a guy is citing a Twitter poll, check this out.
Oh, yeah.
Because we look at the VAERS data and we think...
I should say like who this guy
VAERS
is.
data already.
Yeah, VAERS data, right? VAERS data is just a completely like... it's like putting a suggestion box in a mall, but it's, complaints.
Yeah.
And this guy's going to say that the CDC has an algorithm where they assume there's a certain percentage of the VAERS, signifies a certain percentage or whatnot. And I don't even know if that's true. But 2 years ago, no one knew what the VAERS thing was. It wasn't all of a sudden a
politicized database.
A politicized database where you could go express your entire loathing of the libs by putting something in VAERS.
Or even your anxiety because you've had it primed from you by charlatans like Jimmy Dore that the vaccines are unsafe. So anything any sort of weird symptom you have, you might just throw it on VAERS just to be safe.
Exactly. Who is Steve Kirsch? This is the guy who's on there.
It says he's an American entrepreneur that has started several companies and was one of two people who independently invented the optical mouse.
Okay.
All right. Just so that I want to make sure that we have his credentials.
Medical.
Because we look at the VAERS data and we think it looks like 500,000 people have been killed. But that clearly has to be wrong because the CDC says nobody's been killed. Maybe, a few people with AstraZeneca and, but man, not very many people have been killed. And we're thinking like, 500,000. So we're kind of, one of us is wrong. So like one of the questions is, hey, there are over 15,000 excess deaths in the VAERS system, and the VAERS system is underreported by a factor of 41, which you can verify because we use the exact same calculation techniques that the CDC has written about and has used in the past. It's just that they won't use them now. And so it takes 41 times.
Probably because the algorithm is different. Say, for instance, you're doing measles vaccines in 2011 versus a giant global pandemic and vaccination effort. Those are different contexts, so maybe the algorithm changes a little bit. Just fatuous flim-flam.
But I mean, there's no actual proof that he's using the same algorithm, right? And that the data set that he is accessing via VAERS is in any way what the officials who cull this data and have an understanding of what's reputable and what isn't, and researches that. There's no verifiable information that he's using the same.
And these people are playing. They're the best defense is a good offense. They're going on offense because what they have been doing with regards to excess deaths is downplaying them, which have been happening all throughout this pandemic. Because guess what? Coronavirus has been killing people after, like, those cardiac events go up. That spike happens after the coronavirus, and it levels off after people start getting vaccinated. That's what these people are trying to obscure right now.
Same calculation techniques that the CDC has written about and has used in the past. It's just that they won't use them now. And so when you take 41 times 15,000, you get 600,000 deaths. And so my question to the CDC is, hey, guys, if the vaccine didn't kill those people, then what did?
Cool.
And nobody in the entire world can answer that question.
Pause.
Jimmy.
And so that's
Pretty sure we can.
Yeah.
There is some notion that he's arguing. It's almost hard to follow his argument in the sense that, like, he is making up a straw man that there's 600,000 excess deaths that he is calculating through the VAERS system by imposing an algorithm that doesn't necessarily, that isn't a constant used by the CDC. And then he's saying, like, well, if we can't figure out how those deaths happened, then what was it?
We can't actually verify.
Like, well, we don't even know that those deaths actually happened.
No, it's like a quadruple layered bullshit sandwich. One is that he's using the same algorithm. Two, that he has the same data set that the CDC uses. Three, that the VAERS data that he's using is verifiable and true. And then he gets this number, and we're supposed to take that at face value.
Sorry, excess deaths are calculated by like deaths, and not like an extrapolation of VAERS data through like that. That's ridiculous.
Continue.
Those people. Then what did? And nobody in the entire world can answer that question, Jimmy.
And so that's the question. That's the question we've been asking on this show. Dr. John Campbell's been asking on his show.
Another quack.
A lot of people are now asking this question. How do you account for the excess deaths? Because the establishment says they're not coming from COVID. So if they're not coming from COVID, why are there all these excess deaths? And so nobody knows why.
Okay, so I went on Nextdoor and I wrote, hey, looking for success stories.
We should just say there was a cut there. We just want to be clear. But he's talking about, he went on Nextdoor. Mm-hmm. Just so you're clear on what Nextdoor is. It is like a neighborhood chat board.
Where,
it's like Facebook.
Scare themselves about crime.
It's like Facebook, but even less representative of anything scientific.
Yeah, more about racist fear.
From COVID, why are there all these excess deaths? And so nobody knows why.
Okay, so I went on Nextdoor and I wrote, hey, looking for success stories on how well the vax is going. Anybody know of any success stories at all? And I got lots of likes, and I got not a single response.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Oh my God.
Have you even heard of any success stories? I mean, is there a...
This is like discovering the atom. This is like a scientific breakthrough on par with discovering the atom. I mean, like, honestly, really, he had the initial data, and then he verified it with the Nextdoor like to comment ratio.
I'm trying to think of like what the success stories would look like for the vaccine. Like, how would you prove? Okay, for instance, I have been around. I've been exposed to people with COVID, and I got it in April, but I've been exposed. I've been, out and about much more so, and been exposed, at least to my knowledge, more than the past 2 months. My friends got it. My kid got it. And I didn't get it. Is that a success story? My daughter, who got
it's because
COVID,
it's a fake virus and it doesn't even really exist. So you're never going to get it to begin with. That's the premise. Is that you guys don't think COVID is actually dangerous? That's the only way you can have this conversation without like having your brain fall out of your head, is if you believe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all just garbage. It's all just garbage. Is there any more to this? And we should say, like, my daughter was testing positive for only like 3 or 4 days. And is that a function of the vaccine, that she didn't get very sick at all? I don't know. I don't know.
And it's again,
but I should go on Nextdoor and find out. The idea that you would base anything off of a poll with the people you are friends with on Nextdoor is insane.
Yeah.
You know who's not friends with that dude? Anybody who thinks COVID is real.
Right, exactly. They know where he's coming from. That's why they're not going to comment on his dumb shit and just they're going to put a like on it.
Of course. Yeah. That's like like Gavin McInnes going like, I went on Nextdoor and I said, who here thinks that white people aren't oppressed? And nobody answered. Is there any more?
Yeah, the next part is the Twitter poll part.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. The Twitter poll.
Stories on how well the vax is going. Anybody know of any success stories at all?
Millions of lives saved.
And I got lots of likes, and I got not a single response.
Whoa!
Can you believe that? Have you heard any? Have you even heard of any success stories? I mean, is there a? Yeah, and I'll give you another anecdote, which is I asked people, did you know someone who died? And if they died, that they died from COVID, and were they vaccinated? And you'll never believe this. The exact same percentage of people who died from COVID in the vaccinated was the same as the percentage of people who died from COVID in the unvaccinated.
Now, this is in your own unofficial poll you did on Next.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, it was official on Twitter.
It was an official, non-real poll.
It's an official,
there are numbers
Twitter
about this.
poll. Yeah.
There's something called epidemiology. What's that? How does that work?
But even if let's just assume that for a moment, that his Twitter poll was just stumbled on some like actual reality. Is there a difference between the behavior of people pre-vaccine and post-vaccine? In other words, if I'm unvaccinated and I'm staying in my house, then I'm not going to restaurants and I'm not going around people and I'm masking whenever I see other people outside of my pod. Am I as susceptible to COVID as I would be if I've been vaccinated and I'm being exposed once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week without a mask? I mean, it's just so like, this is so rudimentary.
Yeah.
This is like, and it is so like, that's the thing, is that I just don't believe that these people could be that stupid to make these assertions in the way that they're making them.
I think they're scared. Like, I think this is you're realizing like, oh, the vaccine saved lives, and actually this heart attack stuff we're worried about, actually that's caused by COVID. Right. So maybe we're out a little bit ahead of our skis here, and we need to like try to create a narrative that we've actually been right about this whole thing.
Without a doubt. And, and somebody just, I am like, why are you mocking these guys when, you've got that Lena Wen, who was on CNN, saying that we're overcounting COVID deaths now. Mm-hmm. And it's a fair point. I mean, I think to some extent, like we're in our lane, and, we're not going to be able to push back too hard on what's going on CNN. But with that said, if you read Dr. Jeremy Faust, who is at Brigham's Young Hospital in Boston. He's working with someone named Benji Renton, who is fact checking the Washington Post on her Washington Post column, and he says, "Look, the question as to whether we're overcounting or undercounting is a legitimate question at any given point. And he thinks there have been times where we may have overcounted slightly. But he's looking at, Massachusetts and nationally. And he says, I've told Dr. Wen this, but I can say with confidence, we are not overcounting COVID deaths right now, including in Massachusetts, the state highlighted by the Washington Post, because this is literally what I study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that's a good answer. And like, I would point people towards Dr. Susan Oliver on YouTube, and also Debunk the Funk with Dr. Wilson on YouTube. Like those people are better equipped to deal with actual like people with medical credentials dealing with stuff. But the Dore stuff, it's just another example. He last December said, pointed this graph that showed a lot of people dying that had the 4th dose in Australia, and nobody dying that had the 0 dose. But you didn't point out was that like the people that had the 4th dose are inordinately super old elderly people.
80, something like 80%, I don't know. 70% of the people who are getting that 4th dose are like above the age of 65 or 70.
Yeah, and the rest of Australia is just super vax. So like these are basic things that like actually the people, like doctors and the statisticians, they don't want people to die in mass. Right. They're not actually in a conspiracy to hide this stuff. That's why, for instance, like Pfizer recently, they're looking at the guidance and studying about strokes in elderly patients, because this stuff there actually isn't a conspiracy to use this stuff to like weed off of people who are too critical of the government or something like that. Like this stuff is actually being monitored for safety.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It is stunning. It's just like, it is so messed up. And to a certain extent, like the idea that when or these others can trumpet that is an example on some level of them like winning the argument in terms of having the platforms for this type of publicity, because as a society we were so adamant about getting back to normal economic activity.
Right. It's just a flu, teachers. You stinking teachers. Stop being Fauci fearmonger and get back to the school class and start teaching some kids. Literally what he was doing.